Broadcasting from Hollywood, California, it's Grant's Rants, Hollywood Talk.
From New York to Orange County, we're talking Real Housewives legal news, and I'm taking you with me to the Free Britney protest where I talk to the hosts of Britney's Gram. And later, we rate Taylor Swift's new song, and 50 Cent spends the weekend fighting on Instagram. That and more with Jess Rothschild right now. Let the ranting begin. I am joined from New York by Jess Rothschild, a podcaster and the co-host of Out in the Wild podcast. Welcome to the Rants, Jess.
Hey, how are you?
Good. I've been having a lot of guests calling into the show recently. And, you know, that's the thing about this show. You never know who's going to be the guest, but there always are type of people. And after listening to Jess's podcast and chatting with her a few minutes before the show, she's our kind of people. So I'm glad to have this show with you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm psyched to be here.
So let's talk about some Housewives news. I know you know your stuff, and I feel like there's a lot to cover. So let's get into some legal news coming out of a couple different cities and chat about it. I want to get your thoughts first. I'm very tired of talking about it, so I'm getting it out of the way. Joe Giudice, his deportation is now temporarily delayed. I'm ready for the story to go away now. What do you think?
Girls need their father, but it seems like this is still unfolding. I know that Radar obtained some documents, and Teresa has really written to the judge. You know, they need her father. They're crying for him. I know that there was a petition that even Andy Cohen signed this week. You know, I don't think petitions really work, you know, quite frankly, but we'll see. I mean, I've definitely seen the pictures of her in Miami with that younger guy.
Right.
I don't know if they were spotted again. I think they were spotted recently together. So it's possible that she's already in a new relationship. She did say on the record that she would not wait for him.
Right. I think the lawyer said to them, look, it doesn't look good or whatever. Something along those lines of someone's asking all emotions put to the side saying, okay, how does this really look? What are the chances of this working out in our favor? You know, you've got to be realistic at some point. And I feel like when someone was real with them, it was like, there's a very good chance he could be deported. Then that's when you can try to detach yourself a little bit. And I think maybe, I don't know Teresa, but maybe she detached herself a little too soon, just to try to get out of this emotional roller coaster she's been in for the last 4 to 5 years. You know, and that's why she's kind of going a little crazy, which I believe that she is with other guys. But I'm ready for the story to end. I really shouldn't talk. I mean, their daughters are suffering from this, and they really are probably dying for this to be behind them as well. But I'm tired of covering it. But nevertheless, we have to cover a little bit of legal news, so we might as well acknowledge this one. I want to talk about Lou over in Real Housewives of New York, Luann Del Ceps on Watch What Happens Live saying, quote, everything's great. That really should be her tagline, because everything with her really is always never better.
No, seriously, the world could be ending and she's like, what? Everything's fabulous.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
So her case has now been dropped. She had that case with her 2 kids and her ex-husband. It was filed against her in July of 2018, claiming that she broke a stipulation in her 2009 divorce settlement. We're seeing a little bit of that being talked about on the show. But yet, you know, everything's great. So she's out of the woods, I guess.
Yeah, basically the situation is that it was purchased with the stipulation that the money was going to be for a trust for the kids. And yeah, she basically was going to sell it without even informing the family, and then use that money to buy the house up in the Hudson Valley, which is in upstate New York here. And first of all, it's confusing to me that she would want to give up her Hamptons house, period, because I mean, listen, I live in New York City. There's no social life really in the Hudson Valley. It really is truly for just low key New Yorkers. So it's interesting that she would want something like that to begin with and give up all the social scene, which she's clearly very entrenched in out in the Hamptons. But that's just an aside. It's just confusing to me. But I will tell you that things actually are great with the kids, because I've been at shows, at her Countess and Friends shows with her kids. They go to all of her shows, particularly Victoria. Like she was sitting right directly in front of me at a show that I went to last year. And also the Count has been, the Count himself has been to her shows. My co-host on my podcast was at a show with the Count, got a picture with him, the whole deal.
Well, that shows it. I mean,
yeah.
I'm glad that they like things like that, especially with family, can tear people apart and be, of lifelong damaging effects. So I'm glad that like this was just a blip for all of them. It's unclear what spurred the kind of dropping of this lawsuit and whether an agreement was reached privately. I'm hoping that it was just amicable between all of them and they just said, all right, let's just move on and let's not make this a thing, especially when it's so public. It really becomes a spectacle.
There was a lot of talk that it was this lawsuit that caused her to kind of, start drinking again.
That's what I
the
thought.
Stress of it.
Yeah, that was kind of, I just imagine that was the kind of the tipping point for her. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, listen, if she was, drinking like crazy and really, going nuts last summer at the time she was making these irrational real estate decisions, it makes sense, that she was not in her right mind, trying to do so.
Right. Yeah. So hopefully
I'm happy that
behind
it's all
her.
dropped and yeah.
Yeah. Other legal news going on in Real Housewives world. RHOC Shannon Bedore, she finally finalized her divorce from David, and an inevitable divorce. I think many viewers of the show from day one, when they were introduced, had a feeling that this wasn't going to last. I mean, for as long as we've known of Shannon Bedore, she's been in an unhealthy relationship, and now it's finally over. I've never known her not to be unhappy. So I'm glad to see that this has finally come to fruition for her, and it's over. And she celebrated by going to the Quiet Woman with the new Gina.
I know, that cracked me up.
Oh, so the settlement is private, so we really don't know the terms. In March, Shannon won joint legal and physical custody of her 3 daughters, and she received spousal support at a monthly rate of $22,500. So she's doing good. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, I know that it's sad for her she didn't want to get divorced, but life on the other side seems to be pretty good for her. So I'm happy.
Yeah. Yep.
And now a new marriage is about to begin. There's a divorce and now this engagement. I'm sure you've heard and seen this everywhere. Vicky is now engaged to Steve Lodge in a very low-key proposal. Apparently she came home from work and he was cooking dinner and it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday night. And now she got engaged. Very, very low-key.
And now she has her storyline for the season. Keep her on the show another year.
Yep. Another year, a new storyline. I was unable to find out if cameras were there or not for that.
They were not.
Really?
Yep, private.
Wow, I'm genuinely surprised because, like, I feel like even Steve is in a little bit on the game of, like, okay, our lives are televised. Like, he knows that there's, like, all this pressure to have to, create stories. So I'm surprised in that. This is going to be Vicky's 3rd husband. Between the two of them, they have 6 adult kids. And I'm happy for her, I guess. I sent her a message on Instagram and said, I hope the love tank's full.
He's got a couple divorces, under his belt as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope it works out.
Yeah. I guess people I say this a lot. I've said this on the show a bunch. Like when you reach a certain age, like what are you going to be married for? But I get it in a way because it's all different types of people, right? Different strokes for different folks. And Vicky's someone that wants to be married. She wants to be in an extremely committed relationship. Like that's all she was ever wanted. So I get it. But like at their age, I mean, even to share assets and stuff, I don't know. I don't see the benefit.
Yeah, I agree with you. Once you're 55 and above, like what's the point?
Especially with Vicky, who's all about business, which I really do admire because, like, I don't know if it's just a general statement about housewives. So few of them have like an actual job. That a lot of them have their, their side hustles, but Vicky like sits behind a desk and is on like a Windows computer in Excel. Like, how many housewives can you say like hold down a job? So like I kind of like that.
Yeah.
Well, in the spirit of your show, in fact, I didn't plan this, but your show, again, the podcast being out in the wild, I was out in the wild this last week. In West Hollywood, the Britney Spears protest was held at West Hollywood City Hall. And I had work, and I was like, how the hell am I going to go to this? Because I'm supposed to be at work, but I got special permission, and it's, the protest is the end of my street, basically. So I was like, we're definitely going. But, I didn't know what to expect. I want to clarify that it was not necessarily about her being put in a mental hospital, but it was about the abuses of her conservatorship. And our main objective here is to get an independent investigation into the said conservatorship. So let's take a listen. I got a chance to talk with Tess and Babs of Britney's Grand Podcast, and they've been at the forefront of this story. Let's go.
Free Britney! Free Britney!
I'm here with Tess, just, a warrior. Thank you for all the work that you've been doing. I can only imagine the mixed reactions you're getting from the universe right now, but you're continuing forward. I've seen you on everything that you've been promoting this on and talking about this cause, and thank you for the work.
Of course, yeah. We were presented with an uncomfortable truth, and we felt a responsibility to share it.
It's true. I came here kind of with mixed feelings. I saw the pictures today, and I'm seeing post Easter things aren't that wonderful and that great. And I didn't know, maybe she does need this help, but there's so much more to it. There's so much more. What were your thoughts when you saw these pictures? Did it confirm a lot?
The pictures just really unsettled me. I don't know what they confirmed, except that she didn't look happy and healthy, so I thought it was really unsettling that they released the pictures with a caption saying that she looked happy, healthy, and relaxed.
And who released that?
That was the paparazzi release. So the paparazzi that took that photo apparently released it to a bunch of news outlets with that caption.
And that was the caption.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Yeah, it got me in my gut. I'm a long-time stan like you, and, but what can fans be doing? Spreading the word, I guess.
Spreading the word, I think that's really our only vehicle. We're going up against some very powerful people who are clearly, as we're seeing from the events that unfolded this weekend, making serious steps to try to stop this movement from happening. So we just have to keep going forward and keeping the truth out there.
Amen. All right, thank you.
Yeah. Hands off Britney! Hands off Britney!
I'm here with Chloe, who's an actual listener of Grant's Rants. Thank you for listening to the show, first of all.
I sure am. Thank you, Grant.
That's such an honor. Thank you. And we both kind of just bonded before I hit record here that all this Britney news has been affecting us, and we really don't know what to do to help somebody like this. But here we are showing our support. This is kind of cathartic, right?
It certainly is. It's awesome to be here sharing this frustration with a lot of people who are feeling the same thing, and having felt this over such a long period of time, it feels really wonderful that at least we're starting to talk about it and hopefully get some action.
Yeah. I'm dying for something to come of this, something positive, something that will really help her, or at least something that will eliminate all the mess. There's so much in the press. It's spun so far out of control. We will all be maligned and called stupid for being here. But I stand in my truth, and I think that something's up, and I want it to come out.
Yeah, I think it's really important for us to reframe the narrative around this movement. Because it seems that Britney's team has been feeding some information to the tabloids and having this be presented as a sort of fan conspiracy theory.
Yeah, we're all crazy. We're all the bad guys. Her diehard stans. We're all the bad guys.
Yeah, we don't want her to get whatever mental health she needs. But the real issue is, why is Britney under this conservatorship for 11 years? That was supposed to be temporary and was presented as such at the time.
And why is she being treated like a show pony? Trotted out there year after year. They were so damn quick to sign her up for another Vegas residency. If she's so unwell, why would they do that? That's what we're saying. There's something going on here.
Yeah, it's more the idea of a conservatorship is totally valid for people who need it.
Incapacitated people who can't clothe themselves.
Exactly.
This is not Britney Spears.
Absolutely. We see her. She went on stage every night for years and years in Vegas doing very complex choreography that, myself, even if I practiced many nights, I could never do. So, and I'm supposed to be in my right mind. I don't understand how it's legitimate that this person has been under conservatorship while working an incredibly intense schedule and being
I mean, you're how do you do a world tour and then be not considered a human being and considered basically like an incapacitated person?
Yeah.
Give me a break.
I think it sounds so insane and it sounds so crazy that people, they can't really wrap their heads around it, which it is, but it's documented. This is all documented. The New York Times did a really in-depth article on this in 2016. And, we're still here 2 years later and the conservatorship is still going on. Britney Spears herself has filed motions to the court. And that for us also means that she's trying to be heard.
She wants out, yeah.
But it's one of those chicken egg situations where she can't get a lawyer because she's under the conservatorship, and she can't get out of the conservatorship without a lawyer.
What a mess.
Yeah, exactly. But it's great to be here and see that there are some people who care as much about this woman. And honestly, we owe it to her. She gave us so much for so many years. And like you said on your last episode, that at this point, it's really about the person Britney Spears, not the artist.
Exactly. I mean, if she went away and lived a quiet life, she owes me nothing. So go ahead and take care of yourself.
I just want her to go spend her money, do whatever she wants with her money.
Get her man going, and enjoy.
Exactly. As many plaid shorts as she wants and edamame beans.
Thanks, Chloe.
Thank you, Grant.
I'm here with Babs from the podcast, Brittany's Graham, and here we are in the corner of West Hollywood, the center of everything, center of Britney right now. How did all this come together? I mean, I've listened to the show. Here we are. We're at this point. I mean, it's like this has to be a breaking point.
That's how we feel. It's like, I feel like, I don't know, when we got that voicemail, we both knew that something big was about to happen. If we came forward with it, we're like, we knew it was like, we have a choice to make, and we're going to make this choice to put it out there. And we had a feeling that, it would gain traction. I don't think we ever knew, could predict what's happening now. But
even as a listener, I was following along, I'm following the breadcrumbs with you, and then.
But it was so. But we could have never not put that. It's like, how could you not share that? If you got it. So. Yeah, I don't. It does feel like something's about to happen. Something has to happen. She has to. They have to let her speak for herself. Really.
Well, that's the thing. The one thing I keep saying is where is her team? Where's RCA? Where's her family? Where's some type of statement? And what could we get that we would believe at this point?
Exactly. I mean, I really think it would have to be something along the lines of a interview where no one is present from her team and where they're not allowed to pre-approve questions and where they can ask anything they want about how she feels about the situation she's in. And who knows if that will even be, it's going to be hard to believe anything except I think that's the closest we could get.
Yeah. And I mean, the comment that Larry Rudolph made allegedly about the ticket sales, I mean,
believing in Britney.
These are all things I just want to get your final thoughts real quick on all of this and what can we be doing as fans? What do you think? I mean, just keep sharing.
Keep sharing, keep putting the public pressure on, let people know because, people know casual things about there if they're casual fans, but so many people I've talked to didn't even know she was in this conservatorship thing, and I think it just speaks for itself. It truly does.
Yeah.
The past that when she's tried to come out, it all does.
Yeah.
If you look into it, I really don't know how you could feel otherwise about it.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing all this work and for putting yourself out there and for dealing with probably a lot of mixed reactions, I would assume. So
mixed reactions, but also such an intense amount of support because people just can't deny it. I'm a cynical person. Trust me. I would not have put myself out there this way unless I was this is very important and I believe this 1,000%.
Right.
So you gotta do it.
You mean what you say.
Yeah. You gotta do it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
24 hours after the protest that you just heard, there was a video released on Britney's Instagram where she said that she's just been going through a lot of family anxiety and she'll be back real soon. A bunch of stuff in this description about Sam Lufty's emails that is a total distraction and has nothing to do with why people are protesting or why she's in the news right now. And then another thing of her working out, pictures with her sons over the weekend. Perhaps the only good thing to come out of all this is that there is a status hearing for her conservatorship on May 10th. And I'm hoping that that's a result of all this public pressure and that a judge noticed this and said, let's have a sit down about this. So I'm hoping this has a happy ending. I don't know.
I actually have a very interesting Britney encounter. Like, if you want to hear it, it's kind of juicy, and it does provide a little bit of insight into Britney, the person, and also how they're controlling her. It has to do with the meet and greets at her concerts. If you'd like to hear that, I can share with your audience. It's kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah. Tell me briefly. I'm curious.
Okay. So a Britney Spears meet and greet is $2,500. And it includes like a VIP ticket. So you will be, within one of the first few rows. You get this meet and greet, which we're going to talk about. And you get a backstage like tour. Like, oh, here's, this is the drum from the original circus video, things like that. And her costumes, yada, yada. Now, in an episode of our show, my co-host goes into great detail about, he's been to many Britney meet and greets, and he goes into great detail about what her specific meet and greet is like. This is very eye-opening. So basically, when you're waiting online, so they sell maybe 20 meet and greet tickets for every concert she puts on. When you're waiting online to go up to meet her, her people come out and they say to you, we need to explain to you that Britney is extremely, extremely shy. Shy is the word they use. And they say, so don't take it personally if she, isn't singing and dancing, or if she's a little off, don't take it personally. You're also told that you can't touch her. So if you want to put your arm around her, for this photo, it's a professional photo. You can't bring your own cell phone in.
Oh, okay.
Phones get confiscated. It's a professional photo. The lighting and all that. So they say you can't touch her. So if you want to put your arm around her for the photo, it has to be like a fake hug, essentially. Meanwhile, other artists like Cher will hug you. Lady Gaga will like basically make out with you, like if that's what you're looking for at a meet and greet. And also, at a lot of these other meet and greets, you can see the artist doing the meet and greet with other fans. You can like, okay, like this is approximately how much time you're going to get. This is how other fans are interacting with the artist. With Britney, there's a huge wall blocking your view of her. So literally, you cannot see her before you are face to face. So he goes up and literally, Britney does not speak. The only two words she says is thank you. So, for example, he's like, nice to meet you. It's been, amazing show. All very quiet, very soft. All she says is, thank you. That's it.
Well, I blame her team for that, as usual. Yes. But clearly, I don't blame Britney at all, because she doesn't want to be doing that. It's talk about bare minimum. She says thank you, and they take one picture. I mean, why bother? Why? Clearly, she's not interested in doing that, and I respect that.
And it's for the money. It's the reason that this
$2,500 for one photo and a thank you.
Yes.
That's a money-making business scheme. That's a scheme.
And that's the reason that I so firmly believe we are going to get another album and tour and all of these things and keep the machine moving.
Yeah.
It's obvious that Britney Spears, like the girl, she doesn't want to do a meet and greet. She's socially awkward. She's not interested in meeting fans or strangers. She's not. And the fact that they force her to do this every night for 20 or 30 people for that very quick money grab is inhumane. I don't know.
I agree. I mean, when it comes to her team, I've been very critical of them just in how they've rolled out her last few albums, how they handled that horrible, horrible announcement of her returning to Vegas. Just a pattern of really lazy work that they've done. And now, after all that I've been learning and reading with hearing about this conservatorship, I mean, the only thing they're busy doing is running to the Bank of America to cash a check. I mean, I'm not seeing them really being there to really help this girl or to really grow her career. It's just let's do an album. Let's have her make an appearance on Ellen. Let's do this. Let's do that. Another perfume. I mean, it's just kind of, it's a total machine, and there's nothing really new or groundbreaking happening here. And it's too bad that she needs to get rid of all of them. I wish she could.
It's a shame because contrary to what many people and like probably the mass public believes, she actually is an incredibly creative person. Like she executive produced the entire Blackout album by herself. She delivered it to the label, and it is her, bar none,
definitely
best album
100%.
And she was also very involved in Glory, which is another incredible piece of work. She teaches dance class, or at least she used to teach dance classes in LA. Like, she's a beautiful, creative soul. And I wish that they would just, give her wonderful writers to work with to craft music. So, I'm hopeful. In the next couple of years we'll get something good.
Man, I hope something positive happens and changes for her. Before we come back, I want to briefly mention a few thank yous to two people over on Patreon who are supporting the podcast, and you can do the same over at patreon.com/GrantsRants. Marisa Brown, my longtime friend, my loyal friend back home. Thank you, Marisa. I love you for that. And Ashley McCurdy, thank you for supporting Grants Rants over on Patreon. I put out content, little extra stuff that you don't get on this show 2 times a month. So if you're interested, head on over there. And we will be back in a moment. Jess and I are going to talk about this 50 Cent Lala scandal, I guess you can say, going on Instagram. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about her podcast so you can get a little bit better of a feel for what that's all about. And a lot more. Come back in a moment. Now this.
You're listening to Grant's Rants. Subscribe and spread the word. There are a lot more rants to come. Listen anytime on all major podcasting platforms. And now, back to the show.
And we're back on the podcast with Jess out of New York. Welcome back.
Hey.
Let's talk about Pump Rules. I haven't talked much about Vanderpump Rules. Overall, I think that they're having a decent season. I know some people are hating on it. It's fine. It's not terrible. It's just enough.
It's fine. Listen, it's not lighting the world on fire, but it's still wonderful television. I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. I actually am sad that it's ending like within the next couple weeks because
I know,
these shows, they come on, like I always say, like for 23, 25 weeks. So when you're like on week 21, it's like kind of part of your routine, So I'm kind of sad to see it go, but there's a lot going on. And in fact, I started these notes on Friday and I updated them quite a bit because over the weekend, there's been a lot going on. Lala Kent has been back and forth with 50 Cent, or at least she was in some type of Instagram Live. And, we all know that 50 Cent can be very petty on Instagram. And so he edited a video with subtitles that looks like it came off the Bravo app. And it shows how Lala explained how she met her now fiance Rand to Stassi and how she got a Range Rover and she let Rand hit it the first night. And he basically called her a hoe. And there's a lot that goes on from here. What do you know about this story?
This is the crossover into the real world, like the actual celebrity and talent world that we didn't know we needed. It is thrilling, confusing, and better than anything on television.
It's all real time. It's playing out like hour by hour.
Yeah, just the very image of 50 Cent watching Bravo or Vanderpump Rules is absolutely hilarious to me.
He definitely has the app. He definitely has the app because that's how he got all that footage. Yeah. He's watching. I don't know if 50 Cent stuff one has the Bravo app, so we know that much.
So good.
We should clarify. I don't want to cut you off. I just want to clarify the connection. Randall's connection to 50 Cent is that he produces 2 of 50's television shows. So that's how they're connected. But go ahead. What were you thinking?
Yeah. I was going to say that Randall, have you read all of the text messages?
Yes.
That 50's put. Randall pausing the conversation to, quote, go to the ER and check on a heart attack was absolutely wild and ridiculous. Meanwhile, that photo that either he posted or 50, there's an image that one of them posted with a bunch of, heart monitors connected to his chest.
What
connected
was
to
that?
Randall's chest.
Yeah.
First of all, I remember that photo. It was posted 6 months ago. I think it was Randall just showing that he was getting in shape, shortly after they had gotten engaged, him and Lala. So that was ridiculous that he posted that, basically referring to him going to the ER. That was a blatant lie because I remember seeing that exact photo months ago. I mean, listen, it's money, money by Monday. This is the story as I understand it. 50 loaned Randall $1 million roughly about 6 years ago. And every time 50 has, asked for some payment, Randall has kind of skirted it, or essentially he's pushed him off. He keeps dodging him whenever he asked to be repaid. And I guess he was just catching up on Vanderpump Rules, and it hit a nerve that that Lala's on there being like, yeah, I got a Range Rover the next day, after I met him and after we hooked up. And I mean, I would do the same
think it's
thing.
just a slam at Lala for him to be like, your fiance is a hoe, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's super low-hanging fruit. I mean, someone who's watching and doesn't really know Lala, and they're hearing this girl about trying to get on a Peach and all this stuff. I mean, of course they're going to throw a label on her. I mean, the girls themselves did that on the show. So it's very easy. Lala's a big target, just to be considered, another thought. But, we see that she really does have real love for him. There's been comments online if he loses all the money, will she still have feelings for him? I don't know.
What's so funny, his Instagram profile photo used to be him and 50 Cent, and he changed it yesterday to him and Lala. I noticed that.
Well, that's the end of that.
I personally think that Lala has a lot to gain from this, because she's now been exposed to this enormous audience who previously most likely had no idea who she even was. It'll be interesting to see if she becomes an even bigger star.
Well, yeah, and I've been watching her socials to see if she's been kind of low-key capitalizing on this. The only thing that I've really been seeing is that there's been a real big push around her products. So maybe she's aware that there are some extra eyeballs on her, and
I'm
she's
sure she got
pushing
a
products.
ton of. I'm sure she got a ton of followers in the last 24 hours. I'm sure personally she's a little freaked out. I would not want to be in that house. I would not want to be in the Emmett Kent household right now. But I'm sure they're both still pretty freaked out.
Yeah.
But I think in the long run, I don't think they're going to last. I think that Randall Emmett is PK Jr. over there.
Oh, God.
I think
I can't with that.
Yeah.
I want to get your thoughts on this. Taylor Swift, she's back out putting out music. It's so cyclical. Ariana Grande now, I guess we've gotten everything we can out of her. So now we're going to switch over to the next one. Taylor, new music video dropped, me, exclamation mark. In my opinion, a very generic song. I don't think this is anything that special. It's catchy. It's poppy. It's nothing groundbreaking. I feel like, a Reputation made people stop and stare, whether it was good or bad. This is just kind of like a safe one. Brandon Urie is in it. Forgot about him entirely. And it seems like this is going to be a song that's going to be featured in every summer movie soundtrack or promo.
It sounds like a Target commercial.
Yes, it's very for everybody, very positive and there's nothing not polarizing.
Even the way it's written, the capital me with the exclamation, it reminds me aesthetically of JT's Can't Stop the Feeling, how that was all written in all caps with the idiotic exclamation mark, sort of marketed to 10-year-old girls. Very strange for Taylor Swift. So bubblegum. I mean, I'm not
very
bubblegum. I was very disappointed. I expected her to come out with something much more artistic and, really something to say. She's a singer-songwriter, and to go so bubblegum, it just sounds like it sounds like Katy Perry's worst song.
Oh my goodness. That's a statement.
Right? I mean, listen, and I love Katy Perry. You can do bubblegum pop, right? It could have been Teenage Dream, the song, is one of the best pop songs ever written. I really believe it is. But Katy Perry, but this is just the most talk about low-hanging fruit. This is the most generic candy, lyrically, it's so simplistic. like says nothing, does
Well, that's
nothing.
what I think. I'm not a hater, but it is very generic and very safe. I mean, I will say the music video, you can tell they had a budget. It's nice to see a music video these days that actually has money behind it. But like you said, like, it's not very artsy. You expected more from a singer-songwriter, especially with the rollout. I mean, they had a very strategic, creative, long-term marketing plan leading up to this, complete with theatrics of a countdown, a mural by Kelsey Montague. Spotify turned all of her albums pastel, the album covers. There are a bunch of clues in these murals, or I don't know if there's multiples or just one, but it's all different parts to it. The Instagram posts were like up close shots of different parts of her video, from like a bar cart to her outfits and all this stuff. I mean, the approach was very impressive, but the result and the product is kind of underwhelming to me.
Yeah, I agree. Different approach. I believe with Reputation, she really didn't do many interviews. And this time around, she's going to start doing interviews. We'll see.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you now about your podcast. Again, we're going to talk about it now so you guys listening get more information. It's called Out in the Wild, and you have a co-host, David. And the two of you, I mean, you're really really out there interacting and tracking down these people. I think it's funny that you both are very proud stalkers.
Yes. It's interesting. We each have different motivations. Like, for example, David, my co-host, if you go to his Instagram at David Yontif, you'll see he's got, he has like 24,000 followers because every single photo on his Instagram is him with everyone from Cher to Britney to Justin Timberlake to the Shahs of Sunset, and like everyone from Vanderpump Rules, every housewife under the sun, and every like friend of housewife that you didn't even care about. It's a very like high low, like the most famous person he can find, and also, Luis Ortiz from $1 Million Listing New York, like where's he been? We do some investigative journalism on that on our show. Whereas I've had maybe more, I don't want to say meaningful experiences, but my experiences with the Housewives have been perhaps a bit more detailed. Like, for example, I went to Jill Zarin's luxury luncheon a year and a half ago where all the housewives were invited. This was at her home in Southampton.
I remember this,
she's been doing it for like 5 years. This one was incredible. We went as sponsors. I went with my partner. She works for a plastic surgery company. So we were able to sponsor the event. And so we really had like a front row seat to, I mean, there must have been like 20 housewives there. So we got to meet everybody and just to be like so up close and personal with not only Jill, but what was interesting was this was the day before Luann filed for divorce from Tom. Literally like we were with her and we saw her shopping. She was in a great mood. We're taking selfies with her. She was like wasted, like in a great way, and having an amazing time. And the next day it hits the news that she's filed for divorce in Sag Harbor. Basically, while we were all at this day-long party, Tom was out kind of fraternizing with a bunch of girls at a local Sag Harbor bar, maybe like 25 minutes away. So like we were like really in the thick of it that weekend. Gosh, we have had so many run-ins with Ramona Singer. I mean, I've been on a flight with her. It's like she's just everywhere I am and my partner.
How's she? What's she like?
We have had just the most hilarious interactions with her. I legitimately watched her have a full Ramona meltdown in the taxi line at LaGuardia Airport, like kicking. There was like a very, very long taxi line. We're on a flight. We land back in New York from Miami. And meanwhile, we were with her from security, like putting our luggage through the like security belt. Like Ramona's like 2 feet in front of us. Cut to, she's on our flight. She's sitting in regular economy. Like we were in Delta Comfort, it's like $50 to like upgrade. No, like she was in economy, which like literally blew my mind. And it's all I could focus on the entire flight was that she didn't pay the $50 to like have a little bit more space. And like we did. Very strange.
At least.
And then So then we land back in New York. There's a very long taxi line. Imagine like a roller suitcase. She's like pushing it forward and then like running after it, basically so she doesn't have to drag it in front of her, this whole way.
Oh, that's so much work.
She starts shouting to, there's yellow cabs and then there's like black taxi commission cabs.
Yeah.
And she's just like, who's going to the city? Who's going to the city? Eventually a black car, a man who like a driver is like, yes, like we'll take people to the city. She literally shouts her home address in front of God and everybody and just gets whisked away.
She was completely by herself?
Completely alone.
Oof.
Yes. And then like literally she's like huffing and puffing because we were like, elbow to elbow with her. Like you don't understand like how close we were. She's literally like turning around to my partner and I like, can you believe this? Like
oh my God, I would love that. I would not be able to keep my mouth shut with that. I'd commiserate. I can always find something to talk about with somebody. I would commiserate. The two of us would hate the world, but we would have fun.
Oh my God. These are a lot of the stories that we tell on our podcast. I was actually at the Real Housewives of New York finale taping of Countess and Friends last year. Like unbeknownst to me, I had bought a ticket for the actual show taping. Which like blew my mind. I can actually see myself. Like when you watch the episode, I can see my own self like with my phone, like filming. It's just ridiculous.
Was it you and your wife together? Did you go with her?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. And our friend.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
The show was actually incredible that night. And they cut a lot of it out. Like Bridget Everett performed. She's a big cabaret star here in the city. I met Bethany that night. We did a whole video together. We both go like, mention it all. It's on my Instagram. I caught her like going to the bathroom and on the way out, I asked her to do the video with me and she came from a place of yes. And, I was the only one who even noticed her.
Wow.
And so, yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much what our podcast is about, telling stories like these.
You're out with them. Yeah, you're having these interactions.
Yeah. And my co-host is the one who, David, he's the one who, he is out there every night. He's like an Andy Warhol or like the modern day, like Andy Cohen type, where he is out every night. He's friends with a lot of the New Jersey housewives and he meets everyone. Anyone who's a guest on Watch What Happens Live, he meets them that night. And he is a story to go along. Like he just met Lala and Ariana Maddox from Vanderpump Rules last week. They were on Watch What Happens Live. Mm-hmm. And he came back with a story and then like we record it, in the next day or so.
For more stories like this one, check out their podcast. It's going to be Jess and David on Out in the Wild. You can find it wherever you listen to podcasts. I was able to find it everywhere. So give it a listen, kids. Yeah. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Yeah, you can find us if you just go to outinthewildpodcast.com. I'm Jess X NYC on Instagram, and yeah, you just type in Out in the Wild. It's everywhere, and we'd love your feedback. We take requests. Like if there's anybody, if you're like number one, if your number one is J-Lo, like we've got a J-Lo story, like a boots on the ground, like personal encounter that we've had with. Gosh, you name a person, like Madonna is both of our number ones. Like we're very connected on that. And so we're saving our big Madonna episode where we're going to reveal our stories when the new album comes out in a couple of months. Yeah. So like we're excited for that.
Yeah, it's like celebrities and where to find them and what they're really like. So that's kind of how I would summarize the show. So cool. And the different ways of how you guys, like, it's always unique. Like, it's not one size fits all for how you're able to see these folks. So that's what's interesting. Sometimes, like you mentioned earlier, it's just by circumstances, like someone's on the same flight. That's funny because like I don't have that experience and I live in the middle of LA and I don't really have that, but maybe I need to be more in tune and looking for things. But I enjoyed having you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be back, as always, with more rants. I love you guys for listening, and I'm going to be away for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to be at the Daytime Emmys and then in Florida visiting some family, so there won't be a show, at least for another 2 weeks. But as always, we'll be back. More good stuff planned here on Grant's Rants. My thanks to Jess, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
This has been Grant's Rants. Support the Rants on Patreon at patreon.com/Grant's Rants. Follow Grant on Twitter and Instagram at It's Grant's Rants. Cover art created by Howie Rone. Voiceover by Oh Yeah! Original theme music by Alexander Arntzen. The Grant Michael Collection.